the town clerk tax collector's office will be closed on Thursday, September 19th, 2024. The staff will be attending the tax collector's 85th annual fall conference. The office will reopen on Monday, September 23rd, 2024. And the town clerk tax collector's office will be closed on Tuesday, September 10th, 2024 for the state primary election that will be held at Prospect Mountain High School from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. and will reopen on Wednesday, September 11th at 12 noon. Okay, public input on anything on the agenda.
Good evening, Kelly Sullivan. I just saw that Ginny Douglas is on the agenda, Ginny Douglas Park, and I just wanted to say, obviously, I drive the downtown corridor quite frequently. It is looking so beautiful and a welcome addition to the downtown area, which I feel does need some revitalization. So it's looking really good. And I just wanted to thank everybody who has contributed to that, because I know it's been a large town-wide just pitching. So thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm
Good
Bill
evening.
Hauser. I'm here as the chair of the gazebo committee of the Alton Garden Club. And that's a heavy responsibility on my shoulders. There are 60 very serious gardeners counting on me. So first I do, Kelly kind of mentioned it. I had the opportunity yesterday to drive from Holderness to New Durham. And so I drove by the Lawn Garden, the Triangle Garden, and the Barrels, and Ginny Douglas, and Alton is looking really good from the road. And everyone here had a part in all of that. And I just want to kind of thank the Garden Club, even though they're not here, for all the labor they do. I know they're planning. I had a couple conversations about what plants are going to be going in your new side yard. So they're really I see them as a very vital part of the community. So I take my responsibility seriously. I hope some of you have had a chance to take a look at the gazebo over down there. It clearly needs a.
Let me just clarify that we were still in public input.
Yes. So
Are you
it's-
speaking in public input, or are you speaking on item number 1 in new business?
Well, I thought the input was limited to agenda items only, so I am
It is.
speaking
Okay.
now to.
It sounded like
yeah.
you were going into, go ahead.
Well,
I'm sorry, I'm just want to
Please,
clarify.
yeah.
Does anybody else have any public input? If not, we can
Go right in.
we can close public input and go right into the new business. It's just, it gives you more time to talk to the board about the.
so there's back and forth
Sorry.
versus.
Yeah,
Yes.
it was just a little confusing there.
No,
because-
I am confused, so I
Okay,
admit it.
no problem, no problem.
So
Okay,
I'm not seeing, I don't have eyes. in
so we're
the
gonna
back of my head,
close,
so-
what I'm gonna do is close to the
Alright.
public input.
Alright.
And we don't have any appointments tonight. New business, Ginny Douglas, Park gazebo repair request.
Right, appreciate it, thank you.
Absolutely.
So my comments were thanking the Garden Club for everything they've done there. In the past year, I've added up the plants, the material, the labor, and the cash. It's come to over $11,000 donated. They've set aside another $1,000 to assist with the repairs to the gazebo. I think I could probably come up with another 500. I'm trying to get us over the finish line to do whatever it takes to get that gazebo. At the very least, the roof before winter comes. The cupola is very important and it's not looking super sturdy to me. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that structure, but it's been aging.
Yes.
And it needs some work. So I've spent more than a year trying to find 3 folks that would give me quotes on what it would take to fix it. It's a small job, but it's an important job. So I came up with some. They were a little varied in what they were offering to do and how closely they looked at what to me are the needs of that structure. But I've done what I can and they are before you. So I would ask you to, if you have the opportunity, take a look, but consider the proposals carefully and then do the part that I have no control over at all, but take a look to see if you can pull together any kinds of funds to get it done. I am hoping that for under $4,000, we can get it fixed this year. I think if it goes much longer, we're looking at replacing, which means tear down, removing, buying probably $9,000 kit and assembling it there. And it's kind of $4 this year or $20 next year. And that's just kind of my assessment. So I am hoping that you guys will solve the problem. So come Christmas tree lighting, we can have a nice bright gazebo there to celebrate. So that's all. Any questions that you have about?
Well, I'm
anything
just looking at
before
just looking at the quotes, and the quotes vary little as far as work.
Yeah.
The work schedule, and only one mentions really the cupola.
Well-
And the others really don't describe doing anything to the,
There was, so from my reading, there was one that said climb the cupola. There was another that said time and materials to be determined on the cupola.
Mhm.
And then there was one, I think, that basically said top to bottom, deal with the whole thing. That was the only one that mentioned caulk, which I thought was probably an important part of restoring the cupola. So, yeah, I leave it to you. I have some construction background. There was no specific scope of the work. I was like, the roof needs to happen, the railings need to happen because they're clearly deteriorating right now, and the cupola needs to be restored is how I framed it to the individuals that I spoke to. But yeah, it was quite the range of
Mhm.
response. So,
one of the things that we we have to think about, and with all our departments, we are in a default this year.
I understand. that.
So things have been very tight in all departments. I've had to tighten up and to work and make everything work for the year. And that's one of our issues that we have right now.
I do understand that. One of the things that frustrates me a little bit is it's been more than a year that I've been working on that, and I was told specifically that I needed to get 3 quotes. Now I'm hearing something that maybe I didn't actually need to do that, but whatever, I've done what I can. It still needs to happen. I do understand. And again, I have no idea what the staff of the town are working on. I understand that this is not a priority, but I also understand that there are people that probably have the skills to redo the railings, over time during the winter and put them in whenever, let the pressure treated dry for a while and stain them. So I will leave it up to, your knowledge of the resources in the town, what the town might be able to take a piece of, but the cupola and the roof are. I just, I don't want it to fall apart.
Well, I did take
so-
the liberty of looking at it very closely. And in my opinion, yes, it needs, the roof needs to be removed.
Yeah.
And taken off, and the roofing material, not the roof itself. The
Yeah, no, I
rafters,
understand.
the
They
rafters
look firm, right?
are all looking fine. The exterior trim of that is fine. The cupola needs to be definitely taken off, taken
Yep,
down,
and
and
redone.
scraped, painted, and redone.
Yep,
As far as the wood shingle roof, yes, that's deteriorated.
right.
But everything else, as far as the posts, the decking,
No,
Uh,
I've done the same
looking very
thing. The-
good.
The deck could be sanded. I've been
Mhm.
poking. I didn't want to actually take an owl and poke too
Mhm.
severely, but yeah, that's my assessment also, that it's pretty stable and it's level
Mhm.
and it's secure, but the roofing, the cupola and the railings, because what
Yeah.
I think the fasteners and the pressure treated wood, the mineral salts got in there and they're basically corroded away and pretty close to past their life.
Right.
So, those are
So the
areas.
existing roof is a cedar shake
That's correct.
roof,
Yes.
and I guess you have no issues with it being changed out to
It's breaking the heart of some of the garden club members a little bit, but 3-tab or architectural,
Mhm.
I think whatever, it will seal those joints better anyway and last longer. So, yeah, they understand. I think, we would
and it
like-
would still look, it would
yeah,
look
it would look
nice.
fine. And
It
I'm
would still
I'm
look very
thinking,
nice.
a light to Harvard gray, some grayscale color. Yeah, no, I'm not gonna try to put a cedar shingle roof on.
Expensive, yeah,
So-
that, insanely expensive.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, if it's okay, I did have a conversation with Jill, yesterday. We went through this and it might make, given the variation in the quotes and some talking about time and material.
Mhm.
If it's easier for the board and they're agreeable to it, I did talk to Seth down at Grounds and Maintenance. If the board wishes to make basically a motion to cap repairs at $2,500 on the town side of things, then Jill and I could work together through the donation and the town's match to that to get as much, if not all, of the work done. By talking to the various contractors and finding out, because as she pointed out, there is a sort of a variation as to what they're
Yes, there is.
quoting, what they're not quoting, time and material. But then that way it would give the board the ability to give us latitude with a cap of funds. We do have a line for the Ginny Douglas. It doesn't quite have $500 and I mean $2,500 in it, but I talked to Seth.
I was gonna ask,
Yeah.
what was in that?
They historically only put $100 in it right now
Okay.
for the line. But there are other funds available in grounds and maintenance that I talked to Seth about to be able to prioritize the repairs.
Up to 2,400,
Up to
25,
25. Yep.
2,500?
Can we word it in a way that just says, appropriate the amount of $2,500 to be taken from an account at the time to be determined? Is that possible? Do you have to have a specific account? that it
No, we
comes
don't have
out
to
of?
have specific anything. The board can just opt to allow the expenditure of up to $2,500 on repairs for Ginny Douglas gazebo. And then from there,
They
we
felt-
can,
Felt there was enough in their budget
yes.
to be able to
You
accommodate.
guys
that.
okay with that?
Yeah,
Drew?
based on the appearance of the gazebo and its impact on the appearance of our town center, I think we could hardly say no.
Right.
And I have confidence in Brian's ability to scrounge up the funds somewhere. And I would move that we authorize him to do so.
All right, I'll make a formal motion. Drew, you good?
Yeah, I mean, I spent a fair amount of time actually reviewing the June and July expenditure reports.
Mhm.
And we seem to be doing very well at managing the money,
Okay,
even on our limited budgets. And I know that we've got expenses coming up toward the end of the year
we do,
that are gonna,
we do.
hammer it. We're not gonna be able to maintain that, 6.7% that we're at right now. But
Mhm.
But I agree. I think this is a very important.
Oh, there's no question. There's no question. It's important that we maintain the appearance and look of Jenny, of the center of town and doing this. I have no issues with that at all.
Yeah.
Good.
I agree.
Good.
All right,
So-
I make a formal motion. We raise and appropriate the sum of up to $2,500 for the repair and restoration of Ginny Douglas Park.
We have a second.
Oh, there we go.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Thank you. And a final piece of information, one of the garden club members has approached me and said, I clearly talk with my hands too much. My husband's a woodworker and might be able to like fix the cupola. But again, none of us want to get up there and try to take that down. So if it gets down, I mean, I'll ask them again if that was a serious offer, because if somebody's willing to take that home and fix it.
I'll tell you right now, and as far as selectmen, and I could speak for it, I'm in the construction, I would have no problem if somebody takes it down, I could take it to my shop and redo it.
Okay, so you think it's doable? For
I
me,
think it's very doable.
the thought of getting on that roof and taking out the cupola, just like,
Sure,
I bow to
one
you
of the
all,
companies
so.
that's preparing to do the roof can probably take that off for us.
yeah.
Yeah, so.
So, all right, I really appreciate all the thought, energy you put into it. Thank you all.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And Jill will.
Thank you for your efforts and everything you've done. Okay. Ladder truck replacement options.
You're up, chief.
Good evening, Chairman, Board. Thank you again for allowing me to discuss some options, speaking with the town administrator, just kind of prepping for next year, budget season starting, looking at still ladder replacement and potential options out there of can we get to the end goal that we really need? Shorten up the money potentially. So first option would be purchase a brand new aerial truck as been presented previously. We'll probably be in a ballpark of 1.7, 1.8 million, I think, for this 25 year if that passed. Second potential option is a refurb. I don't have a solid price on. I'm thinking probably 750 to $1 million. I think the biggest issue with our truck with a refurb would be the manufacturer who put the truck together is no longer in business. So that truck has consisted of basically three major components. So the aerial part from one company, they're no longer in business. The body came from another company, no longer in business. And then the drivetrain cab and chassis basically is a Spartan, which they produce for a lot of fire departments or fire engines or aerials. So trying to find a company that would be willing to take on that where it's not an E1 or Pierce or something like that, still trying to navigate those waters. Third option would be to, again, look at another used aerial apparatus that would fit our needs for 10 or 15 years. With that, if you find a truck that's in decent shape, that's within that time frame, they typically go pretty quick because other small communities like ours jump on those. So working with the town administrator, looking to see if the board, if we were able to find something that looked like it would meet our needs, to be able to put like a deposit down to go inspect a truck, see if it meets our needs, and then come back to the board for potential purchase of a used truck. So kind of like what happened, I believe is 4 years ago when we purchased the current ladder. Again, those prices are all in a weird, I was looking again today at one of the main used fire apparatus dealers in the Midwest, and you had anything from wouldn't fit our needs by like $25,000 1986. It had a truck on there as new as 2020, and that was 1.7 million for a used 4 year old apparatus. The issue that we also have currently in all is the apparatus size. So we have to be very specific, length and height. So trying to figure out and get that right piece that will fit in the current station. So it can be a little bit of a hiccup, but again, looking to see what you as the board would like as a direction. If you feel comfortable with, if I'm able to locate something that might fit our needs and put a deposit down and then work that way, and then we'll see what the future brings.
What kind of deposit are you thinking?
That I'm not familiar with. I haven't had to do this before. We were purchasing a used apparatus. Did we do a deposit last time? Do you know, Ryan?
I wasn't part of that the last time, but I was thinking that we've done things in the past with nothing as big as a ladder truck, but just with highway doing, we did talk about authorizing, because when we did municipal stuff, a lot of times they put a refundable deposit down so that we could get the town mechanic at the time out there. We did that when we were looking at sweeper. We did it with bucket trucks, but we also did it with more expensively they were looking for a truck for the roll-offs when we were thinking about doing our own hauling. And the issue we were having is every good truck that came up disappeared before we could get back in front of the board to get full approval. So this way, usually when I was thinking about giving the amount of a apparatus or something somewhere not to exceed 30 or 50,000, of course it would be just to secure, not a non-refundable deposit. That's not what we're looking to do, a non-refundable. Some of these companies, a lot of these companies that we deal with know that towns have a process. I guess they're looking for some level of commitment so that they're not holding on to it while we fly out or drive out to another location to look at it, plus get back in front of the board to make a decision to expend, $500,000 plus, which obviously you'll need a full proposal at that point. So when the chief and I were talking, we were just looking at the possibility of getting board's permission to have that latitude to put not a refundable deposit or security down, so that we can hold an item that looks like it might service the town well, just to get back to the board authorization. And that money does come not from the operating budget. We would be proposing that it comes from the fire department's equipment capital reserve, which currently I believe
1.7.
1.7
1.7,
million
I
in
saw
there right
on
now. Because they have been putting money away for apparatus, so we do have the money when it comes time. It's just getting there and making sure whatever we're looking at is held so we can make it happen.
Who are we gonna have inspect it?
We'll probably have to have, depending on where it is, we probably have to have Seth do it. We have the ability to use Seth if he's not available, because Seth is, as you know, has a background as a diesel mechanic. And then, of course, fire department personnel that knows what they're looking at when it comes to the aerial and body on that sense. Yeah, we would need at least two.
At
Yeah.
least, yeah.
And if we can't use Seth or whatnot, then we'll probably look to use a contracted source.
Mhm.
Maybe not one that costs money, or if we need to compensate a little bit for an opinion, but we should be able to get Seth unless we have to send him halfway across the US. We don't want to do
Right.
that.
Well,
I
these-
forget how
this-
far,
What's that?
Excuse me, this equipment all has to be certified, right? So there are individuals that are qualified to certify the equipment.
So like
Wouldn't
the
they also
aerial-
do inspections?
Yeah, so
Mhm.
basically, for me, as the chief, I would look at service records. The aerial should be inspected to NFPA specs every year. The pump, if it's a Quint, same thing, NFPA pump test on it. So I would look for that data, that information from whether it's the dealer or if sometimes they are a middleman between each municipality, but looking, yeah, so it needs to be certified. There are apparatus out there that are beyond the NFPA lifespan is the recommendation that I'll just use, say Middleton, it's a very small town. They may take the gamble and purchase a $25,000 42-year-old aerial and put it in service. So there are values to those to some small communities, but yes, I would ensure that mechanically or for the NFPA stuff, for the fire department specific stuff, yes.
Yeah.
And then work with someone like Seth, who's more mechanically inclined with
Yeah, and
that type of
knows the
stuff,
diesels
frames,
and,
diesel, you know.
yeah. What size ladder are you?
Currently, we have 100-foot, so it's up to. You can get probably between a 77 to 100. I don't think we could get anything beyond 100-foot into our station. Just looking at the best product, I guess, that's available at the time. So they have their pros and cons, you know, sometimes too big is too big and you can't get into certain spots, and then a shorter stick. And I mean, and when I was in Farmington, we operated 77-foot Quint. So, and it met the needs of the community and for what we utilize it for. So I'd be open to options.
And the current ladder that we have now is non-functioning or it
So
is functioning?
It's currently functioning. It's a 1999. The NFPA recommendation for aerials are 25 years frontline, 5-year reserve status. So we're coming up on that 25-year. It just went for inspection. It actually failed inspection. I had a discussion with the TA for mechanical stuff. So it needs a tie rod in, the rear tires are touching. So we got to look at what's causing that. The aerial part of that's not due for inspection until November. So we won't know until November whether or not the aerial portion of it fails, passes. If it fails, who can we get to work on that? Because that company is no longer. So sometimes people get very specific on they work on a Toyota or Honda, or you can go to an all general garage and they work on anything. So
wasn't there also a concern at one point with the size of the truck? We mentioned the aerial, but also the, how many axles?
correct. So basically, we could only fit a single axle
Mhm.
truck in the current station.
Mhm.
So anything above, so they're kind of, it's kind of, I call it a unicorn, a large stick like that on or an aerial on a single axle. So
Mhm.
there'll probably be more opportunity for a 77 or an 85-foot aerial that comes before us than 100-foot. So it's kind of those far and few between pieces. But yeah, it's single axle. That's the only thing that'll fit. And we had to change my understanding of the tires on it to what they are currently in order to bring it down, in order to fit it into the station. So yeah.
If you found a piece of equipment that met all the requirements, except it was 70 or 80 feet rather than 100, would that be regarded as acceptable?
Yeah, I would, again, I would entertain any option at this point, the best bang for our buck. Sometimes it is difficult to, in these smaller tight roads, and then trying to get a 100-foot stick out, and it's not really, I mean, you're just gonna put it up. It's not
Mhm.
functional, but you also have a larger homes along the shoreline that are 3 or sometimes 4 stories, depending on the grade as to where you're entering, where you could utilize that 100-foot. So it's rolling the dice, I guess. So we would never fit a tower into our community or our station, so we would never be looking currently at anything like a platform aerial, just kind of a straight stick quint, so.
And also the option of retrofitting a ladder mechanism to the existing truck, is that a common practice or is that a stretch?
I think it's a stretch because of the fact, if we had, say, it was an all E1 product and we could send it back to E1, they may work and replace or be able to refurb because it's an E1, where they're gonna have to now remove that aerial device that's currently on it because it's defunct, basically, put on an E1 or whatever agency we go to. That's kind of one of those gray areas that I'm still trying to navigate through to see if there's anybody willing to even take a look at it to see if it's a plausible. They get very specific with their makes and manufacturers like other things.
But that may be an option.
Potentially an option. I think it'd be an expensive option, shy of probably about $1 million. We were looking at a refurb for the rescue for 26, I believe is on the CIP. And we were getting quotes of like 700,000. That's just a toolbox.
On
of
an old
bolts.
truck.
So
Jeez. What are you looking at right now as far as replacement, fire truck apparatus for used trucks? What are you looking at right now for cost, do you think?
what I was seeing were
On
around
average.
400, 450 for something that was decent. That was a 10-year-old piece
Mhm.
of apparatus. There were a 2000, what was it, 12 was around 375. And then you had, like I said, they had one couple things I looked at today with 1.7 million, and that was for 4-year-old trucks. So it kind of runs the gamut.
Mhm.
So it sounds like a purchase like this could pretty well exhaust your reserve. And where does that put you for equipment needs in 26 or 27 or 28?
So my understanding, I'm just trying to remember my CIP flow. The request from last year was basically 1.6 million with 800,000 coming out of capital. And then the other 800,000 was going to be a lease purchase. So if we were to just hypothetically find something for $500,000, we're under that 800,000 that we were going to pay out of our capital fund anyways. And the way the CIP committee has it, kind of that self-building every year, looking at that 5 and 10-year plan for replacement for the entire town and what they should be putting in each year to make sure that we stay on top of our replacement cycle. So yeah, $1.7 million is that would empty out the entire fire department. And we currently don't have that because we have other pieces and other equipment that we would need to replace. So
So have you figured out what is the absolute most that you would feel comfortable spending on a ladder today?
today I wouldn't go probably 700,000. And the reason why I say that, I know 800,000 was for, I'm saying for used. As we're looking at the future replacement plans, we're gonna have to make updates to the CIP because inflation and everything else. So if we weren't to get that extra funding in the CIP in the next few years to offset the potential growth or the interest in those other replacements, I wouldn't feel comfortable taking that 800,000 out. So if we were 700,000 or less for a used truck, I'd be comfortable and to continue with that plan moving forward.
And what do you think the value is of what you have?
That is a tough question. So
ask.
I wouldn't want to even guesstimate on it. I know, I guess we spent around 90,000 all in for it.
Was it 90 or 75?
Well,
I
I think
understand
that-
that it was
I think it was 90 all
75,
in.
but
It was
then with
90.
ancillary stuff and some work, it was 90,000
Yeah, so.
that was 4 years ago now.
Mhm.
So I don't know what the depreciation on that is. I wouldn't want to feel comfortable just throwing out arbitrary numbers. I couldn't tell you.
And then to equip, to, basically make it an Alton piece of equipment.
Yeah.
After you purchase it, how much more, between the lettering, the radios, the.
Yeah, radios are probably 10,000. I gotta look to see which ones we have currently in there. They might be able to transfer all that
Transfer
equipment
it
out.
all, yeah.
I think, I think they were a newer radios that
They
went into
were.
that truck, so most of the equipment would be transferable,
That's good.
and then it'd be just kind of the lettering to put the department name and whatnot on it.
Yeah.
Couple thousand.
Any other questions?
Looking for a used piece of equipment certainly sounds like the most reasonable approach at this point of the options that we can afford.
I will do my best to try and find something. Again, it might not come to fruition between now and next year or whatnot, but just wanted to lay those options out there before we get too far in, and hypothetically, we find it's something that met our needs, and then tomorrow it's gone or spoken for, so.
Okay.
So at least we know what's coming.
Yeah. Okay.
So what are we setting aside for?
I was just looking to see if the board was willing to authorize the chief and I to
That's what I was-
expend no more than $50,000
$50,000, okay.
for a refundable deposit or security to go.
A
just
refundable.
Yeah, a refundable,
A-
not,
sound like
not
irrefundable.
non-refundable.
Yeah.
I don't think chief wants to gamble 50 grand either.
No. All right, I'll make a motion that we approve the fire chief and the town administrator to enter into a search for a fire apparatus that was needed for an aerial truck with a coming out of the capital fire capital equipment capital reserve with a cap of $50,000 refundable if not purchased.
Second.
All in favor?
I'd like to, if I could, I just want to point out, though, that there are going to be other costs associated with,
Mhm.
you know, it could be traveling to go inspect this.
Yep.
There could be costs associated with, you know, paying somebody the time to do it.
Put that into 50.
So I
$1,000.
think that should be included in that expense of that $50,000. So the deposit, in other words, might be 45. You know, just that 50 should include that expenditure as well.
Sure.
Okay. That's fine. And you have a second?
Yeah.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Okay. Go ahead. After
Ready to
you,
go, the next one?
go right to the next
All
one.
right, let's go.
Did the co-op thing. He's got number 3 on.
Oh, he doesn't.
Oh, he
okay,
does
I
have
did the
number.
co-op,
Yeah,
Yep.
number 3.
Yep, number 3. Yep.
Gotta
Yep,
give us
go
some-
ahead.
You can hang out there. He's right.
This won't take long,
No
so
worries.
stand by. I just wanted to make certain that we had agreement on the discussion that we had at a previous meeting regarding the August 27th meeting to include a review of the location questions having to do with the swap shop and whether or not we wanted to plan.
This is the co-op, actually.
The swap shop.
The first one, this is new business,
New businesses.
new business. So you wanted to talk about the co-op.
I did.
Well, you,
Well,
well,
yes,
you
there-
do.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Like,
Okay.
co-op.
I never went and numbered the doggone
So,
things, so
The
anyhow,
swap shop's old
Well,
business.
I did-
You were in new.
all right.
business.
Don't forget what I just said, so. I don't have to do- as far as the co-op is concerned, we got an email from a concerned citizen that was very disappointed in the quality of our electric service and the large number of outages. And I have to agree that outages seem to be pretty common. But what really surprised me was they had data from the co-op, New Hampshire Electric, that showed that our outage was more than 3 times as high in number of outages as other surrounding towns. Now, of course, those numbers probably aren't adjusted for population or service area, but I wonder if it would be beneficial for us to invite the co-op management to come before the board and explain the situation and the possible causes and what measures they might be planning or could offer to improve it.
Oh, I mean, we could have them come. I know about 2 years ago, they were out doing a lot of tree trimming in the area of Alton on all the major roads and secondary roads, doing a lot of repairs and cutbacks, if you will. But it wouldn't hurt to have them come in and explain if there's anything else that they could explain why we're having those outages.
I think the board should be adequately prepared with knowing exactly the areas that are the constant repeat outages. I know Echo Point, every time the wind changes direction, they lose power. And I actually did talk to New Hampshire Electric Co-op, and they said, well, it's, all the development's been going on there. We just haven't kept up. So it was a confession.
West Alton.
Yeah, Trask Side Road is another area that it's taken them a year. They finally have a plan in place, and they're going to start implementing. And according to them, they're going to look at Echo Point next. So apparently they can only do one at a time. But I think that, we should be prepared if they do come to hit very specific areas and get their detailed plan and schedule for addressing the issues.
We could do that. Take a little survey of the town and what areas have the most outages.
Yeah, I think New Hampshire Electric Co-op has all that information,
Yep.
and I'm sure they'd be
Yep.
happy to share it with us.
And we can ask them to bring that with them. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
Those, if I just may add, this particular data that was sent with that email, actually, that's severely understated. Because I was out of power that day too, and I went on to their portal. And that particular outage, after we got that email, the entire population of Alton that is serviced by the co-op was out.
It was out.
So I contacted the co-op to find out, and they will tell you that this particular outage, so every service customer in Alton and every service customer in New Durham and the 173 service customers out of Farmington were all without power for the same duration because the power coming into their substation was cut or was damaged. That's what their statement was in regards to the large outage, was where they're getting, which I don't really, it's a little out of my expertise to know how all the lines are run and fed, but apparently what the power, their transmission service is what they called it, coming in from this side during that storm was severed one way or another. I don't know if it was an accident, a tree or what, but the entire town, I watched it that night and the entire town was out. I think the total service number was closer to 4,900. Was out for approximately 7 hours, 6 to 7 hours that night. So, so I was looking into that portal on this particular storm. And then when we came in the next morning, I saw the email to the Board of Selectmen. So, that's not to say all these other power outages have anything to do with the transfer station. A lot of those are.
I think they had a good excuse for that particular one. Maybe not for all the other ones we've had.
Sure.
I can certainly, if it's the
Reach out to
consensus of the
them.
board, I can certainly reach out to the co-op, see if I can get our area representative. And also, ask them to, if they're willing to come, or at least communicate with some recent data on
It
outages.
would be helpful, at least it answers some questions.
Sure.
Appreciate that.
Be happy to make the contact and report back with what I get.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Richard, thank you. Okay. Old business, fire department, equipment purchase request.
Wait, I think we gotta back up now and hit the swap shop discussion.
That's old business, but that's gonna be number 3.
Oh, okay, that's gonna be old business.
Gonna be in the old business.
I'm more lost than usual.
I'm with you.
I'm just here. I'm
The swap shop's gonna be after. You put that on, so we put that as number 3.
Okay, I'm with you.
Okay?
Thank you.
Okay, fire department equipment purchase request.
Perfect, thank you. We got notification that our new ambulance that's on order is being delivered early, so
good
we
to
were
hear.
looking at a springtime initially, we're looking at November.
Nice.
So with that, we need to look at the continuation or the final outfitting of kind of the big ancillary equipment on the ambulance. Zoll monitor, the radios, and then the Knox med vault for the narcotics. Total is about exactly, it's $43,407.88 for those three pieces of equipment. Looking to take the funding out of the ambulance revolving account, which currently sits at, as of the request was $737,560.
Now, have you gotten these quotes before from the same company?
Yeah, so basically, most of the stuff that we utilize, except for the radio, so the Zoll and the Knox, they're kind of trademarked. We can only buy a Zoll from Zoll, and we can buy the Knox from Knox. Kenwoods are typically the radios we've utilized over Motorola, a little bit more cost effective. Osprey Mountain we find to be a little bit better priced and easier to work with than some of the other people in the area. But yeah.
I couldn't help but notice right off the bat, talking about refurbished.
Correct. So we're looking, it comes fully warranted. We can either buy a refurb for 29,000 or we can buy a brand new one for just over 50,000. So basically, we're still utilizing the same X series monitor, the same setup on the other two trucks. We're not looking to replace the other monitors, which have different capabilities that we don't really utilize. So trying to keep the cost down, especially where putting this on the third ambulance or on one on each ambulance, which would be reserve status. So looking at trying to keep it very cost effective. Then
Excellent, that's great. How's the warranty?
I believe it's it was in here, I believe it was a 5-year warranty. I believe, I can get that exact. I had it, I thought. It was supposed to be like bumper to bumper. Your initial purchase warranty was, I believe, 5 years. If you purchase the PM program for it, it's, I think, $510 a year. I believe we utilize it on the other two monitors we have that kind of do a preventative maintenance service for them every year. If they were to find an issue, you get a free loaner and all that other stuff to go out and fix. So our one monitor, we just had to send out for replacement of some sort of, I think it was not the motherboard, but some computer part on the inside. But we were able to get a loaner for free and whatnot.
Okay. Any other questions?
When they talk about the monitor here, the monitor only has a 6-month warranty
Which one?
on the Zoll.
Month reference guide, 6-month PMS warranty. Yeah, I'd have to double check on that. I could have sworn it was supposed to be a 5-year bumper to bumper.
That's why I was asking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't find anything else.
I didn't see
referencing
any
warranties.
I can definitely double check on that with the Zoll rep, because we had discussed that. Was discussed, and what's on the back, SPO2, yeah. But then I can definitely get that.
Yeah, it'd be nice to
certified.
know.
Yep.
I'm all for refurbished, but it's gotta have some sort of decent warranty. with it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Especially where you get a free loaner when it goes
Mhm.
down for the other one.
I mean, it's a great savings from buying new,
Mhm.
but if it's only gonna last a year, that didn't help anything.
Yeah, I will get that information. I apologize. I should have had that. 5 years is stuck in my brain for some reason.
Do you by chance know if the other two pieces of equipment, similar equipment, were also refurbished or whether they were bought new?
That I can't speak to. I don't know. I can get that information for you as well if you like.
I was just curious. I mean, if it would increase our level of confidence if they had been refurbished and they perform well.
Mhm.
The other thing, Mr. Chairman, and I understand the need for sticking with one company for commonality, and maybe it's the only game in town. We have been criticized in the past
Mhm.
by the taxpayers for not obtaining 2 or 3 bids on
Mhm.
large purchases. And well, obviously, that's probably not practical in the case of this equipment. I think we should note the reasons why it's important to buy the equipment that duplicates what we have as opposed to simply deciding we're only going to buy from one company.
I think the only one that we could even shop around for would be that would be the radio itself.
The radio.
Everything else would stick with what we
Again.
have, yeah, like you
Mhm.
said. So we couldn't really do three estimates, and Kenwood matches
It's
the
difficult.
radios that are in all the other pieces of equipment, don't they?
Yeah.
That one would
there
match
is
it.
Kenwood, yeah.
And
Yeah.
the Ken would tend to run less expensive than the Motorola's, which is the big name out there.
I
Right.
found it to be significantly less money.
Yeah.
So anybody that
Yeah.
questions that, we can reference this meeting, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, no, and that's the reason I
We
brought
have
it up
been,
is
right,
because.
Yeah, we get it out
it's
there.
right in
Absolutely
the
right, we
record
have
as
been.
part of the action.
Get it
Then we
actually
say, yes, we
noted.
recognize this and this is why we did this.
Okay with me making it?
Yeah.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, just to Dick's comment too, one of the things that would be helpful to mention for the general public is the continuity with training. That's huge. As you got three
Yeah,
different
yes.
ambulances, you got, new EMS staff using these monitors and this equipment, even radios for interoperability. I know that was a huge thing with the police department, so I wanted to throw, it's even more important
it.
when you get into EMS
Sure. It's
equipment.
important to have the same equipment.
So I make a motion that we raise, we appropriate the amount of $40,407.88 out of the ambulance revolving account, which currently has a balance of $737,560 for the purchase of the Zolex series monitor, the new Kenwood mobile radio, and the Knox box vault.
We have a second.
Second.
Well, I think the amount has got to be 43,407.88. Is that correct?
Yes.
I said
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Okay.
I
He
heard
did-
something different
He,
as well.
he did say it.
$43,407.88.
Yep, that sounds good.
That's the
Okay.
correct
There
one.
we go.
Yeah, but I thought you did say it.
Are we gonna condition that on the 5-year warranty or something? else
Yes.
Better
I'll
than
look
6
into the
months?
warranty.
You
on
want to
it.
amend that to
Make-
contingent on the
I
5
make
year.
an amendment to that it have the 5-year warranty for the Zoll X series monitor and defibrillator.
Second.
We'll confirm all that.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You go. Yeah, you just, once you confirm it, just let me know.
Yeah, I will.
Yes.
Yeah, I said.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
It's all right. Thank you, chief.
Thanks, Chief. I had one job.
Okay, water interest, removal request. 3 and 13 River Lake Street.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, if you recall, a couple of meetings ago, we had some email correspondence from the owner on River Lake 3 and number 13. It's the same owner. Same properties are serviced by the same water line, same meter. One is an office building. The other apparently is a rental unit. They received a bill. There was some excessive water usage. I believe the bill at that time was a little over $1,400. The board decided, the consensus at that point, that they would give the option to have the meter sent out and tested for any type of failure or faulty reading. At the time, there was some observations made by water department members that a hose was being attended to a fire pit, and some information leading to the fact that the hose was left on, which may have contributed to some of the excess water usage that passed through the meter. So since then, we offered to send the meter out. And as you can see in the subsequent email conversation, the owner stated that his guess was that the meter was correct and that his tenant was not willing to admit to the problem that occurred at the rental property. And because it's the office building and the rental property are serviced by one meter and one line, that there was no way to decipher between the office building use and the tenant's use. So the subsequent request, I believe, the resident is now asking for the interest charges to be waived.
Which is 134.60.
60. No, yeah, you're right.
That's the interest.
134.60. So so we already went over this. So now the meter was tested, came back okay, is what I'm assuming, right, Ryan?
No, he didn't want to
Oh,
send
so
out.
it
he
never did
refused-
get tested?
He,
Get a
you know,
confession
he-
out of the tenant.
he doesn't believe that there's anything wrong
Okay,
with the
so
meter.
he's already,
He
so,
didn't want to send it out.
so that time frame that he is saying he had to wait for was also due because he didn't want to send the meter in to get tested, right?
Yeah, I mean, part of it was that his first request went to the water department. The water department stated what the policy is.
Mhm.
Because they don't have really the ability to waive the policy. The policy has to come to the Board of
Right,
Selectmen.
right.
So the initial challenge went to the water department. The water department offered by policy. If you believe that the water usage is incorrect and inconsistent, we will send your meter out to have it tested to make sure that there are proper readings. But any water that passes through the meter is billable at that point in time.
Right.
And so is the
and this was-
interest on the money that it is in there, right?
Right.
And this
So,
was over a
so-
period of 5 months is what he's saying.
Yeah, because it went to the water department. The
Mhm.
water department replied back. They offered to send out the meter. He didn't want to send out the meter. Then they came back and the water department said, well, there's nothing further that we can offer. The bill is what the bill is.
Mhm.
Obviously, if you're unhappy with that, you'd have to take it to the next level. Then there was an email sent through the administrative assistant up here. Then a request went to the board to meet with the board. Then it was put on the agenda. So yeah, by the time, and then we went back to him saying the board, was basically standing by the policy that if there's something wrong with the meter, we'll abate or not abate, but we'll waive the fees if there's a malfunction
if
of
there's
our
something wrong
equipment.
with it, yeah.
But other than that.
And at this point, we still don't know if there's anything wrong with the meter.
No, he doesn't want to have it.
He's
sent.
assuming
Have it, and so we don't know, the water department doesn't know, because he didn't allow them to
So
take.
this
it
is
and
the
test it.
interest that he's been waiting to
Yeah,
come to see us and back and forth.
that's what he says, yeah.
Mhm.
That's what
So he did
says.
pay the quarterly charge.
But he still owes the big amount.
He still owes the interest.
No, he still owes the actual, he wants us to, a one-time reduction in the initial large bill. He hasn't paid that bill yet.
It's currently I did get an update on what is currently owed, from the water department.
Because that's not on here.
And, hold on, it's in my email. Apologize.
He did pay the last quarterly charge, which is
Yeah, he
So
still,
that's
he
what
owes
we-
that quarterly charge from that.
So-
last
so-
question.
61.48.
So currently the balance owed right now, including interest, is 1966.55.
Okay, well,
And what he wants to do is
Minus 135.60.
is pay the balance due, less the interest charge.
well, he doesn't know. It says a charge and at least discuss a one-time reduction. So he wants to try to get a reduction in
Reduction
the
in it.
initial money and waive the 134.60.
right.
I personally don't agree with it. I think he should just,
Well,
I
he
mean,
should-
maybe the interest, but the initial amount, no.
I'm okay
I
with, I'm
I
okay
would-
with the interest.
I would say waive the interest, but he did not cooperate in having the meter pulled
agree.
and sent out and tested and brought back. So I don't see any reason to make a reduction in the initial cost. But I think we can waive the interest.
You need a motion for that?
Agree with that.
Yes, I would need a motion.
Anybody else?
No, I think, if I can, I'll take a stab at a motion here and then you
Yeah.
guys can, whack me around after. But, I'd make a motion that we waive, the interest charge, and I'm gonna say charges, and allow him 60 days to pay the outstanding balance due. So any additional interest charge that will occur within that 60-day period would also be waived.
That's fine.
And that would be my motion.
I'll second that. That's a good one.
See, we're not as bad as you thought.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Richard, you're on.
All right. Let me take a deep breath here. Now, I just wanted to make sure that we had agreement or an understanding that at our next meeting on the 27th, we would review the possible locations for the swap shop based on information that board member Carter and I arrived at with Scott Simons about a week ago. And to determine whether the board would like to make an additional site visit to actually review the location proposed, and if so, the timing for that visit, since it would have to be announced for the public.
It was my understanding at our last meeting, that's what we decided to do, that we were going to
I
do.
think that's
a-
true.
We were gonna
Yeah.
do a walkthrough.
We're gonna do that at 5 or 6. I don't remember the time. though.
We're gonna do it before the meeting.
It's at 5.
It
Okay.
was,
They are
it was
fine.
gonna be before our meeting again.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes,
Yeah.
I don't think we determined the time, but what time do you?
I believe we were gonna meet at the solid waste center at 5 o'clock.
Five?
Yes,
And then we would recess from there or from the sidewalk and then come into the meeting.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because we
Yeah.
have to notice the sidewalk for the public.
Right.
So, yeah, so if that's agreeable with everybody still, we'll notice it for 5 o'clock
Mhm.
at solid waste facility, and we will then recess from there when we're done and reconvene back here at Town Hall.
Very good.
I think at this time.
Thank you.
Since we're talking about the swap shop and we're on that, can I add to this? Is there any reason why I can't?
Oh, of course you
the-
can.
I'm
You can
gonna
add to the
elaborate, I'm gonna
discussion.
elaborate on the swap shop walk. If we have time from the swap shop, discussion at the transfer station, I'd like to bring up the fact of having, on the way back to town hall, stopping and reviewing and looking at the senior center for possible options. For possible options
The parking lot of the senior
the
center.
swap shop being located there as opposed to the swap shop itself. Is something I'd like to have for open for discussion at the same time,
Sure.
if everyone's good with that.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. Do we have an hour? Is an hour enough to do both?
I think an hour would be enough to do both.
Okay.
But, I'd like the board to view and look at the possibilities of the, senior center as a possible location for the size of the parking area, for the size of the lot, and also being a place for social activities as well, which the swap shop seems to accommodate a lot of social activity, which is not really appropriate for a transfer station, in my opinion. So I'd like to entertain the idea and see what the rest of the board would think.
Would we be able to obtain a site plan for the senior center site?
Sure,
At that time or prior to it?
sure.
I assume that its
wouldn't be a
outlines
I
are
don't know
fairly
what-
clear,
what's there
but I
and
don't
what
know
isn't
what the
for it.
property
I'd have
is.
to research that.
Okay. If we
Um,
research that, if not, I can provide pictures.
The site plan?
And
I guess I don't understand what you're,
would
trying-
you,
there's only one building
Well,
there.
if you, and I'm kind of going from memories of the senior center,
Mhm.
parking lot area. If we were to do this, I assume that we would construct some kind of a swap shop.
well, yes,
Oh, okay, yeah.
Well,
And the
that's-
question would be.
because we had discussed before that you had discussed
Yeah.
getting prices on a shed or
Exactly.
building.
Okay,
And
So-
that's something that I would show and discuss with you, and just to bring out to the rest of the board of the parking lot accommodations on both sides of the senior center.
okay. So, and the reason I ask about a site plan is because if you have setback requirements and so on, there might be a question about where will it fit without messing up the works.
Yeah, I'll see what, I wasn't around when they did the renovations to that. No, I was down the police department. I wasn't up here, so I'll get up
Just-
with planning
Gotta
and
be
Yeah,
stuff.
some
just-
as-built.
just to
Figure out
there
what's
somewhere.
down there. or
Just
something,
the,
yeah.
the size of the lot and the plot plan.
Sure.
All right, thank you. Selectmen reports.
I don't have anything to report other than I got a question is when is this budget committee gonna get going? Do we
Yeah.
know?
That's-
We're trying to sort that out right now.
Okay.
So we are down now to 3 members, including the select board rep.
Wow.
So we are trying desperately, a plug for the community that may be listening, that we really do need budget committee members. Yeah,
I might
we're
have somebody
down,
that's interested.
yep,
Spread the word.
we're down, we had 2, we didn't have anybody run this year. Yeah, so we didn't have anybody run and we did have one spot that was vacated by another person, so. We have one that'll be a finish of the remaining term of that individual, and then we have 2 that are that nobody ran for this year. So,
And those positions, if they're filled, are filled by virtue of appointment by the budget committee or by the selectmen?
I think at that point, I'll have to confirm it, but I believe it's the selectmen. I believe the selectmen are the ones
I
that
believe you're
appoint
right.
them.
Yeah, we've done that.
So, I mean, we do have technically a quorum with those, but all those three have to show up every single time. So that was a conversation Stacy and I just had, and we went back and forth because there's no chairman right now or anything, so that the chair and the vice chair did not rerun. So there is nobody in those roles at all right now. The only people that are left right now are members. So we're gonna take the lead in, on our end and try to at least get some structure scheduled, and moving with that. But that is one of the problems we're running into right now, is trying to find some more members, so.
Well, to put it on the record, I gotta say that I'm a little disappointed in a town that rejects a budget. And in response, nobody is interested in actually participating
Right.
to develop the budget.
Mhm.
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
No. All right.
All right, thank you. Richard?
The milfoil effort for this year is pretty well wrapped up and worked out well. And the hazardous waste program continues to move forward. We have a meeting tomorrow morning, and it's going to be in Wolfboro on site where they do most of the collection work to review some facility issues.
CIP, we met, I think we're meeting with, department heads next meeting. We have two meetings, I think, one before the next one and one right after. And, we're getting going on the CIP.
Just for an update on that, you will get notice. I just discussed it with the planning department right now, just given the absence of the planner, that 21st meeting will be rescheduled and you'll continue with the 28th. So just because she's not gonna be available, to have that information that you were looking for next meeting.
Okay.
So that'll get pushed out, to the next scheduled one, which is the following Tuesday on the 28th.
Okay.
Had my ZAC committee meeting, that went well, and planning board meeting is next Tuesday. Coming up with some new stuff coming in there, so that should be cool. New the Cherry Valley project is changing direction.
Yeah.
And so that's it.
Okay. The only thing I have is the Old Home Day Committee has met last week, and obviously we're in progress of the events. Last weekend, I thought went very well, a lot with everyone participating, and it was a lot of towns, people came out for the events.
Will there be a burnout pit for the car show, or is that a thing?
Okay.
No comment.
No comment, no comment. We'll have.
Right in front of the cruisers, right?
Right, yeah,
Mm.
right on Depot Street. That's the Depot Street is with you.
Mm.
Okay. Town administrator reports.
All right. I'm not gonna disappoint. I got 6 items for you. That's right. So the first one is, our September 10th meeting has to be rescheduled because it is the state primary. Just looking at the schedule, a lot of things are booked up and we're trying to get into our budgets, early on. If anybody has no objections, can we move the September 10th meeting to September 9th? That would be Monday night instead of Tuesday night.
That's fine.
That's good for me.
You guys,
Yep, that
you all
works.
set?
That's fine.
All right, so we will move that to September 9th. Checking off the items. Next one, speaking of the primary, is to remind you of attendance at the primary. It's required that we have selectmen attendance at the state primary throughout the entire day. So we will be looking at, scheduling out so that we know that there's not overlap where all 5 of you show up in the morning and nobody's there in the afternoon. So just spacing it out so that we have 2 or 3 there at all times. And then at the end of the night, we need to have at least a quorum, if not all of you, for signing off on the ballots and getting the ballots out. So obviously, the more attendance that you can provide, the better on any kind of voting. So So I'm just putting that out now. I'm gonna put it on my list again for next meeting. So there'll be one more discussion about it, and then maybe you guys can give me a better idea of your schedules and tentatively what we can look at for a schedule.
Discussing.
I know the town clerk will be anxious to hear.
No,
Next is, my third item is the emergency operations plan. If you recall a little while ago, we spoke about a hazardous mitigation plan that we had to update through FEMA. We did it through a grant. Had a group of individuals, both residents, department heads. We did virtual Zoom meetings, to revamp that, and I put it on the website. You guys adopted that one. At the same time, right after that, we did our emergency operation plan because they're kind of hand in hand. The emergency operation plan again has to be renewed. The emergency operations plan is a little bit different because it's a living document. There are ways, it goes on file with the state and the federal government. We renewed it. It talks about duties and responsibilities when we start talking about natural disasters, anything from terrorist attacks to hazardous waste spills. It's basically a unified command sort of structure. So for anybody who's interested, we have now put the drafted, updated EOP on the website. It's a lengthy document. That's why I didn't print out copies for the board because it's probably 100 and something pages. So in order to save a few trees on this one, we put it on the website. I would encourage you, next meeting, we're going to be asking for the board to adopt it. But I want everybody to keep in mind too, that one is a living document. We can make formal changes. The board adopts changes if we think something needs to be changed, because we keep that in use for 4 years before it's updated again. So, during that 4-year time plan, things could change that we want to, change within the plan. So, please take a look at that at your leisure, and next meeting, I will have formal adoption documents that we will be looking to sign off on. We have to sign off on it before August 31st, or we lose our grant funding. So we don't want to do that. So we finished it. We had to finish it before August 31st. It finished last month. Our meetings concluded. They were just compiling the lengthy draft for review. So it has been reviewed by all members in the group. We've made changes that we felt were sufficient. Now we're just looking for any kind of further public input or board input before we adopt. If there's anything. So if you do see something even before the meeting, please reach out to me ahead of time so I can start making changes. All I got to do is email the company, the contractors that helped us develop it, and I can make changes
You
to
gonna
any page.
email the board?
What's that?
Are you gonna email the board or of the
You want,
documents?
you want the plan or you mean the adoption documents or the plan?
The plan.
I can do
Or-
that.
or-
It's on the website.
And the
You-
adoption, okay. Oh,
well,
it's on the
yeah, it's on the website.
I'll
You
go to
just
the website.
click, it's right on the front page. You just click it and.
You sure it's on the front page? Because otherwise it's impossible to find on that bloody website. So,
Yeah, no, it's on the front page.
okay, good.
Yeah. So, the next one is, the next item I need to bring up is the Route 11, culvert replacement that DOT came and approached us about. Recently and yesterday afternoon and in today, there's been some correspondence back and forth with the state. So they had come and proposed the Route 11 culvert repair from the floods. During that oral presentation, unless anybody else recalls otherwise, I didn't hear any talk of a financial commitment from the town or a financial burden of us relocating that water line. Since then, DOT their utilities division has sent the water department an invoice or an estimate through their contractors to move and relocate that water line at the cost of $6,800 to the town. I questioned that. There was no talk about money.
Never mentioned.
They did state that they sent correspondence to the water department, but we noticed that the correspondence was never addressed to the town of Alton, only to the water department, and they didn't have a correct mailing address on that correspondence. Nor did the correspondence have any mention of cost. It just talked about the distance that they were looking for to relocate. I believe it was 50 feet from from the actual culvert itself. I questioned DOT in an email conversation to today. I got a reply from them. They did send me over a copy of their rules and regulations. They stated that we don't necessarily have to use their contractors, which I kindly stated that we would relocate the water line ourselves. And talking to the superintendent, their department can do it a lot less money than what was being quoted by the state contractors. But the other thing that they did is they threw out a comment that said because the town was utilizing the right of way without a recorded easement that they could find, and that because we were doing it, that we were not paying for the access, that it was our responsibility to relocate that according to their policies. So I did respond to them and say that if they're going to require us, because they want the water department to treat the line as if it was a water main. They wanted a minimum of 60 inches below grade, subgrade, with several amount of asphalt, thickness of asphalt, extreme amounts. This is a summer line. It's off in the winter. It's only 1 inch line, but we are going to have to treat it as if it was a water main or, a full seasonal line. So I responded to them and said that we would be happy to relocate the line when it came time, as soon as they grant us a current easement on file, since they brought it to our attention. I did question the fact that I walked around after the floods, because this occurred during the floods, with the Director of Homeland Security and Emergency Management, DOT personnel, area state representative, and senators. I think you recall, because it was all over WMUR. We toured Route 140, the water line there. We toured the washout on Route 11. And the issues were that, we talked about FEMA funding. So I questioned in regards to the funding that the state would be utilizing, because I believe that this should have been incorporated into any FEMA reimbursements. They did respond back to me today and say that FEMA funding is not being utilized, that instead they're using another federal emergency funding that the state has available to them, which is not available to municipalities. But they claim because the water line was not damaged, it would not be considered under their policies covered in the funding. I did tell them that I respectfully disagreed with their interpretation of the federal funding, because the way I understand it, after doing several years of FEMA funding for the town, that if the relocation is necessary to repair the actual item, then it becomes part of the cost that's incurred. I mean, the water line may not be damaged, but it has to be disconnected, relocated in order to replace that culvert. So I did push back with that. I haven't heard back to them yet, because my last communication with them was probably an hour before the meeting. I will get more communication back. The way it's been left right now is that the town, we have opted to any relocation of the water line, do it ourselves, because there's no way that it's going to cost us $6,800 to make it happen. The thing that I'm anticipating pushback on, or some sort of continued communication back and forth, is, and I want the board to be aware of it, is this whole issue of an easement.
Yeah.
Because I don't think the state's going to be, I don't know. I'll wait to hear back from them before I make any speculation, but the way it was put out, that the town basically, the state doesn't have easements for a lot of things that happened back in that era. It's a fact that
It's funny
that
you
wasn't a
mention
policy
that.
till it came on, and it was never a problem until we questioned why all of a sudden the town has to bear the cost. They're using federal funding to pay for it. They also asked us to use local roads so they could shut down Route 11, because it was going to save them $1 million or $500,000. I did remind them that, that was part of our conversation, that there was a significant savings to the state, far more than $6,800, for the town to cooperate with a road closure for almost 3 weeks on Route 11. So, I thought it was important to get you up to speed with the conversation. I am doing everything's back and forth right now in email, so it's all tracked in writing. And it's ongoing. So I will keep the board apprised. I should have more information for you, but for the next meeting and hopefully a resolution. So that's my goal.
Yeah.
I mean, we left it as, you know, we went back and forth, with respectful disagreement. And, you know, really it was just coming down to, we need to find, I told them that after I talked to the board, I'm sure that the board would be looking for a confirmed resolution, before we move forward
Absolutely.
with the project. So.
There was never any mention of any cost beared to the town.
I want to say it was one or a couple of us, we were very specific in making sure that this wasn't gonna cost us anything.
Mhm.
I thought it
And
was
there
in
was
the
no
minutes of
cost.
the meeting. It's
And he
gotta be
asked
in
if there was
there.
anything else he could do besides the road, paint.
Right.
Well, this is the other.
I know,
Apparently
exactly.
He got pushback from his superiors when he got back. And
Yeah.
I think they're trying to push back on
They,
us.
they threw it over to a whole different, the individuals that are doing it weren't even part of the presentation. It's this whole utilities division is complete different division. So I do know, I did see some correspondence between the superintendent of the water department and the state initially. And the gentleman that was here that I'm talking to now, who was running the project. Immediately when the water superintendent had asked or questioned, the response was, please see the utilities division, and that was
There's
it.
gonna be the liaison through all this.
Pass the buck.
That was the end of, that was the end of the conversation with the water superintendent. So when I jumped into it, he's responding to me directly. The commission hasn't got, but I have a series of all the DOT personnel CC'd on the chain.
We were more than,
So-
we were more than cooperative with them when they
Mhm.
were here and asking them to come back and speak with us and you know, make sure that everything was gonna be good with the town and townspeople and operations of the road. We're very cooperative, and to come back to us like this is a little nervy.
Yeah, yeah, it was definitely not, and I did talk to him about the future communications, that all communications need to be directed to the town of Alton through the Board of Selectmen, to avoid, you know, any sort of miscommunication in the future, because like I said, the correspondence that they believed was going to cover their conversation with this was addressed to the water department and that wasn't their mailing address. And you look on the bottom, because every other DOT communication that comes to the town is CC'd. Board of Selectmen, CC Police Department, CC Department of Public Works or Director of Public Works. There was nothing. It was not CC'd to any other department, the town
Why
of
can't they just
Alton or
pipe,
anything.
why don't they throw some conduit in there so we can pipe it through?
Mhm. Yeah.
So
They
if
want it
something happens
50
to one
feet,
of them-
they want it 50 feet away from the dig.
What?
They want
Correct me if
50
I'm
feet
wrong.
away?
You're right. 50
50
feet.
feet away.
50
1
feet
inch line.
for the 1 inch line. So,
And they want it,
mhm,
they want it 60 inches down.
mhm. Yeah, so anyways, that's the update on that. I will get back to you.
Keep
It's
us informed on that.
ongoing communications.
Yeah, I mean, these meetings are all recorded,
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
They are.
so
Oh, yeah, the minutes are on
yeah,
there.
play it right back to them.
Oh, no,
They-
I only think we said, there, no cost to the town at all when we were discussing the different options. There's zero cost.
Yeah,
There was
I
zero-
don't specifically recall that, but I do remember them saying no problem. We just put it in.
Mhm,
I
I
specifically
remember that.
there was no cost to the town.
mhm.
There was nothing, there was never added any verbiage whatsoever of, oh, this is gonna cost this much for the town.
Mhm.
There was no conversation.
Again, that was probably prior to them thinking we had an easement to, I mean, they probably thought we had an
That,
easement.
that
then.
water line's been, I don't know how
Forever.
many years, but it's.
A long time. Well, the culvert itself was built back in the train days, I think,
Yeah.
in the,
Exactly.
with stone and everything else. So, I mean, yeah.
Okay.
All right, we'll work it out. I just wanted to make sure the board was aware of it before we got too far with it. So I will keep you updated as we progress. And, you know, the goal is to work to a common resolution. It's not trying to,
No,
I'm trying to push back to enough so that the town is not bearing these costs and doing this unnecessarily. But at the same time, you know, obviously we want to keep a good working relationship with DOT. So,
right, of course.
Um,
And they should know that.
yeah. So the next thing I have for you is just an update on, for those of you, hopefully you remember the 319 grant proposal is out of DES. The 319 grant was spearheaded by the Conservation Commission. We've applied for it 2 years in a row. It's a competitive grant and we have not succeeded in achieving the grant, but Conservation Commission wants to apply again this year. It's the same application. Basically, what this is, the 319 was specific to, what's that? Mills Pond, yeah. It's specific to the water treatment for the water runoff coming off of School Street 140 down this steep hill. It was all settling in the corner by Mills Pond, but it's contributing to all of the bacteria issues in Mills Pond. So that grant, in conjunction with Ty and Bond, has been working on that for the last 2 years with the Conservation Commission. And Scott was working hand in hand. Gene spearheads it with the assistance from a gentleman out of New Durham who has done it a few times for the Mary Meeting watershed. The reason he wanted me to bring it up again, one, to make the board aware that they're reapplying again, but the other thing is there's letters of support that we did in the past. Those will need to be updated for the new grant as long as the board doesn't have any, or is not opposed to supporting that grant application again this year.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Everybody good with that?
Yeah, third time's a charm.
All right, and the last thing, we went through those quick. The last thing I got for you is just another update on, so if you recall, for transparency purposes for the public and everything else, I queried the board about the septic pipe crack in the basement. So when we exposed the septic pipe running through the floor by the elevator shaft, it's the old cast iron pipe and it was cracked down the top. Luckily, we didn't have any leaks. It will leak, but it was sealed at the time. But there is a crack right down the top of it, and it is very corroded and rusty. It's brittle right now. So we were able to. It took us took the contractors about 4 hours to break the rest of the concrete in the channel, basically 1 foot, a foot and a half on down and expose the pipe all the way to the overhead door down in the basement. I did get a plumber in to look at it, and the plan is that they're going to replace it with PVC all the way back to the clean out on Friday while the building's closed. So then that way we don't disable the restrooms during the workday. But we are well below the $3,500 cap that I threw out there originally. I wasn't sure what the plumber's cost was going to be, but it took far less effort than I anticipated to actually uncover it. So it was a straight line. It didn't veer off, so we were lucky in that sense.
I think it was a good call.
Mhm.
While that was opened up and discovered that portion of the pipe to replace the rest of it.
All right. So that will be exposed. Well, it's covered up by some wood right now, so nobody falls in the hole. But that'll remain exposed till Friday till we get it replaced. So if anybody is inclined to take a look, feel free. The picture
And I-
shows you the crack that I sent you,
Yeah.
but
I have
you're
seen it.
welcome to go down there at any point in time. All right, and that's all I got for the board tonight.
Okay. Thank you. Approval of the minutes, July 23rd, 2024, public session.
Any changes to those? No?
We're good.
I make a motion, we approve the July 23rd, 2024 public session.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Releasing. Okay,
Releasing just one.
let's see,
Just one.
I'll make a motion for the July 23rd, 2024 non-public session. To approve with the exception of sealing, what did you say? Sealing,
No, releasing them.
releasing number one, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
thank you.
that's okay.
Releasing number one and keeping number two remain sealed.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Consent agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move we accept the consent agenda dated August 13th, 2024 as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No appointments this evening? Public input?
Jill Hauser, 3 quick items. I think the font could be larger on the agendas. If you would consider that, just for the older folks in the audience. 2, Ryan, I'm not super clear on the gazebo. It sounds like it's going to be in-house. If you want me to contact the folks that submitted the bids, I'm happy to do that. Otherwise, I know they're anxious, so I don't know who's gonna, I just.
No,
want
I think
somebody
we
to
should,
follow up with
I think
them.
we should just meet, have another meeting, even if it's tomorrow sometime. I have meetings first thing in the morning in
Okay.
Wolfboro. I won't be back until midday, or we can do Thursday. I'm available
Yeah, that's
all
fine.
day.
Just reach out, shoot me,
Mhm.
an
Yep.
email or message.
So my intention would be that we contact some to iron out some of the details to figure out exactly who can do what, who
Mhm.
can't do what, and we'll sort it out from there.
Okay.
And I certainly don't want to step on anybody
No, but if you're.
that
ser-
is
if you're-
offering to
if
work
you're
on it.
serious
If
to
they
pick
can't,
one-
if they can't do it and find out they can't, let me know.
I appreciate that. Thank you. That's
Yeah.
really an important critical element. And the third, I just want to briefly address the location of the swap shop since it was brought up. And a little bit about the social element, because I understand we do have a senior center. I also envision trucks bringing chairs and dry goods to a center there. As a person who hangs out at Ginny Douglas a lot, traffic can back up Old Wolfboro Road rather quickly as you enter Main Street there. So I don't know just traffic flow wise if that would be the best, but the social element, like I love going, I call it the dump. I love going to the dump. Brandon or Jim might run out with a biscuit for my dog. It's a happy time. Or I'll, say hi to Scott. Is it true that the location's going to be that dump, that dirt pile? Whatever. I have a quick interchange like many people do when they're, at the dump. So that's the social element. I think when we're talking, it's not like sit down and have a cup of tea. It's like, hey, what's up? What are the grandkids up to? So when I think people are talking about the social element that happens, they're just talking about that interface with people. It's not a slow thing. And when you look at the flow of traffic, consider that, traffic will be stopping, dumping stuff off or picking something up and then flowing on. I also hope that you will talk to the folks at the senior center that are running programs there and to see if there would be much friction between an entire new activity on Pearson Road there off Old Wolfboro. So those are just things that popped into my mind when you suggested that. I want to really thank you all for doing your homework and seriously considering everything that comes before you. It's quite a kaleidoscope of things you deal with. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Come on up. You say it into the mic again, please, so
I'm Carol Shea,
thank you.
84 Roberts Cove Road. I worked in architecture for a good part of my career, and I just had to make a comment. I came into this lovely space, place of assembly in a public building, and I couldn't help but notice that there's only one means of egress. The second means of egress is blocked. Right,
This is fire escape right there.
Fire escape is in the back.
We just put that on. It's brand new.
oh, okay.
That's
But the-
because of that's blocked,
Yeah.
because that's the elevator
Okay.
shaft. The new
There's no
elevator shaft.
signage.
So it needs a sign.
Mhm.
Yeah, they need signage, that's all.
Just sign it, Jim.
I
Thank you.
just am concerned because
Mhm.
luckily tonight, there's not that many people, but you might have a large assembly and you know what can happen, so.
Thank you
That's
very
all,
much.
thank you.
Very astute.
Thank you.
Hi, Kelly Sullivan. I have a couple of things and I do appreciate your time, so I'll try to be brief. Ginny Douglas, I appreciate the meeting halfway. It's appreciated. I know there's been a couple of things brought before the board. I think, and when I say we, there's been a lot of people, obviously, it's been a huge community effort down there. I know we'd really like to get it, like Jill had said earlier, buttoned up before the winter. So I do appreciate that halfway meet. I do kind of think that was to offset the fact that some people really don't want the swap shop, and that's okay. I do appreciate that it's still on the agenda and still being discussed, because it is very much so prominent in front of a lot of people's minds. Just wanted to briefly touch on the ladder truck. I guess it's not about the ladder truck per se. I think it's about the fire department in general. We've been kicking the ladder truck purchase down the line for a number of years now. I sat here quite a few years ago when a ladder truck was discussed. And then last year it was shot down, and now we're discussing it again. I know it's a large purchase, but it's necessary for the town. Again, not the ladder truck per se. So let me just back up. So I went to the softball game on Sunday, the PD and the fire department softball game. It's always fun. And when I showed up, there were 3 fire personnel on the field because we had gotten so many calls. So the rest of the team was MIA for a little bit. And the rest of the team showed up, and they were all really young kids. We had a whole police department team there. The fire department needs more overall. I know historically, fire departments were volunteer run. If your dad did it, you did it, your kid did it, and everybody volunteered. But I think we all see over the years, volunteerism has gone down. And you can see that just within our fire department. I know we have added personnel, sprinkled over the last couple of years. I just want to state that we really need to, I understand that we are in default budget. I know there are no funds. I know that we're up here, but there's a lot that makes the town run. And I know while, say, Ginny Douglas or the swap shop might not be the top priority, there are things that make the town run, but then there are things that make the town's people happy as well, right? So however, we really need to look at this. I know we have the CIP, we fall into default budget, but somehow the fire department always ends up on the short end of the stick, it seems. We have very low personnel. We don't maintain personnel. We really need to have more full-time personnel in the fire department. And we need to be able to make the purchases for the fire department that's necessary. I guess this is just my plug for the fire department. Did not realize that I was going to do tonight. But again, I've sat here at a number of meetings where the truck has gotten kicked down, kicked down, kicked down. Every time it's kicked down, the price goes up, right? The price goes up, the interest goes up, something happens. So while I understand sometimes you need to do that, you cannot do that forever, right? So we really need to start thinking about that differently. And again, I will say I appreciate that you're still talking about the swap shop. I don't know if the senior center is not really the place for it. But I appreciate that you would look at an alternative to keep the talk going. Again, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. No non-pub this evening. So.
No, there's no non-pub.
And so I'll entertain adjournment.
Andy. I make a motion, we adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everyone.